All right, now we say this sets to each other day by day. Do we always really know what it means? Because there's some hidden meanings that just that simple sentence, all those words are single syllables. So even a child could learn to say that. But as I look at various stalagmites and have gone through so many years of experience, I wonder if people really know what they're talking about when they say that. That some seem to me, it takes a long while for it to sink in. And of course, you have to know the birth of the law quite well before lots more sinks in. But so I decided that I would talk about will today because people get confused. What is my will? And this is, I guess, essential that you know what your will is. Now, there are two kinds of will, actually. There's a finite will, what that could be your vocation or your avocation, what you want to do in this world. And then there's the infinite will, which carries on from life to life to life, over and over again. And that is to achieve the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. At least that's what we call it in Lima. Other religions call it something else. But we don't need to go into the history of what religions called it. But every human has the ability to transcend what they are here on this earth and to transcend whatever the horoscope has handed them for this particular life. And of course, from each life, you get a different kind of horoscope, depending upon what you believe. I could talk a little bit more about that, but I'm going to go stop wandering around and get back to the subject here. The infinite will is extremely difficult to achieve because dilemma means extreme self-discipline. To do what you will means extreme self-discipline. For instance, let's take the violinist who's going to play in a famous spot or orchestra, or perhaps he's going to be a solo artist and work so that he can turn out famous for our consumption. He must discipline himself to practice so and so many hours every day. I choose a violinist because I noticed my past serving in the same house, the Krampus house in home. And he must decide that he cannot stay up all night and party because tomorrow he must practice and he must learn all kinds of music. It's not only the kind of music he's going to play, but he must discipline himself to decide to go to college and to learn the things that he needs to learn about music in general. And he must discipline himself to use his fingers and his violin carefully and for all the rest. Therefore, he must give up smoking. He decides not to drink. He decides that certain foods do not go well with this particular occupation. And he decides all kinds of things like this in order to become a decent violinist. And if he's got the talent and disciplines himself sufficiently, he becomes famous. Now, of course, there's a saying that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% hard work. And I look around at some people who are interested in Philema and they say, oh, well, maybe somebody says, well, it's my will to ask you to do these. Therefore, you got to obey me. That's not dilemma. And that person is undisciplined. And that can lead to difficult things. That we only have to look at what happens in cases like the Jim Jones, whatnot, and the Boyko stuff. So, some of these people achieve a certain amount of illumination, And then they decide that everybody else has to obey them. And he'd been slaves of other peoples. Now, in Philemon, don't need slaves. Each person is supposed to become a king. And if you are a slave to some habit, just think what you're doing to yourself. Are you a slave to cigarettes? Are you a slave to alcohol? Are you a slave to drugs? You're not going to get anywhere. Clinic studies and living if you are a slave in any sort of way. Of course, the book of the law says the slave shall serve, but who wants to be a slave? I hope not.
Okay, that's true. And I think you're here because you want something better
for yourselves. You want to achieve some kind of domination. And this is perhaps what has inspired you to become interested in women to begin with. However, there's different kinds of inspiration for this. Some people decide, well, I'm going to do magic because I can make the world do what I want to do. Other people to do what I want, you see, so I'll use magic manual. Okay, so I'll tell you a little story here. I won't give his name away because it's well known. Mr. X decided that that car was always going up, and he needed to use it to get to work and so on. So Mr. X decided the car went out of whack on a weekend. And he decided, okay, I'm going to fix that with a ritual. And he went indoors and devised a ritual for yours. And went through it. And when he told me about this later, I said, for Pete's sake, Uranus does not rule cars. Mars does. And I said, not only that, but I think you're a little bit weak. And the best thing to do is to find out how to fix your own car. And I've seen too much of this. I'll do a ritual. And they forget the very basic stuff they ought to be doing. Something goes wrong in your life, you fix yourself. You learn how to fix anything that's going around. If something's going wrong in your house, you either earn enough money to get somebody else to fix it, or you do it yourself. You don't do a ritual for it. That's kind of upside down, you see. Now, what the rituals are for are to refine your own character and to help you gain some kind of knowledge of
spiritual, right, spiritual life. But I have seen stick out.
Enochian, for instance, and they don't nothing else. And they go nuts. Ricardo used to say, these people could shake his head. They have no background, and they want to do Enochian this and Enochian that, study it and evoke Enochian entities. Well, I'll tell you a nice little story about that. I was corresponding with a person who was doing just that. He's looking licks of the king of the water sweat. And in his house, things began to go wrong. First, the animals were all upset, and then his children were upset, and then his wife couldn't take it any longer because things were happening in the house that should not be there. And eventually, the cooling system, he lived in Arizona, warm country, and the cooling system in his house broke, could be fixed. The pipes into the house, the water pipes into the house broke. And then the radiator of his car broke. And he wrote to me about all this water trouble he was having. I wrote back, I said, for Pete's sake, would you ask the President of the United States to come and do dishes for you? He had evoked the king, so what did the king do? He sent persons to tell this guy that he was doing exactly the wrong of the crime. I mean, he sent entities. You do not want to handle any entity on the other side, because it will get you if you can't take care of yourself. You cannot discipline yourself. You will go nuts evoking Subti help. So anyway, the latest I heard was he's given up magic entirely. Nothing more. But I just think it was lucky that they didn't get to go vote and go out in the lake to blow everybody. And this all happened because he couldn't diswound Settle. And I've heard other incidents too. Early on, somebody wrote to Grady and me about what they had done. They had evoked something on the other side. And evocation can be very dangerous. He was a young man. Because, oh boy, let's have fun. He was, therefore really started up thinking, this is wonderful. I can just book some conversation, get it through my name and into intelligence or whatever. And he did this. He went through the rituals to evoke this entity. And soon his house can't go all to pieces. That the animals and his parents were away, fortunately. When the parents came back, they couldn't stand the atmosphere. So he had to try and get rid of whatever it was he had evoked. And he ended up having to ask a Catholic priest who knew about these deeds to help him get rid of it. He couldn't get rid of it by himself. He didn't know how to make it depart because it couldn't make some things in his own character depart. And so the Catholic priest did whatever ritual they happened to know about it, and they took a certain thing that this fellow had put together to raise the evocations family, and wrapped it all up, and then went out to the woods and buried the stuff. And eventually it came back. So you act very careful. Do not diddle the things on the other side. You cannot control your body. You cannot control your emotions. You cannot control your mind. You will soon be in trouble. And the only thing that really is important for Crowley puts it very, very succinctly as you hearing practice. He said, any operation which has nothing to do with the not achieving the knowledge of conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel is black magic. And I bet you read that sentence and forgot about it. There is only one thing for anyone to do, is to one point their will towards the achievement of the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. That's the only thing that's lawful, real. And so all of this glamour and what you think is fun is really off limits, especially if you're in. And you have to start at the beginning. You have to build a pyramid that has a very wide base. I have seen Jack Frost's rinses and Grady McBurty were two of them. I have seen people who build with hardly any base. And they get something tall like this. So the first second wind that comes along, and Jack loops up, and Grady went to an insane suck. Because they wouldn't do it, they couldn't work. Is that Grady used to come out and about 11 o'clock in the morning and do all of the rest at one time, even midnight. So that's how a balanced people can be. All right, now, start with the body. Why not? Because that's what you're in, right? You have to. This body is the temple of your soul. You have to take care of it. So then you have, if you really are serious about studies, you start to discipline the body. You get. That means certain types of eating habits. Are you ready? All right. I'll start over to Bobby.
That's all right. Took a half-hour warming. I was told yes, right. You've never been here before. No. Next time we get.
Well, I was just talking about evoking things from the other side, entities, very sorts, and what kind of trouble you would be able to. Because if you cannot discipline yourself, cannot control yourself, you can't control anything. Can't even control this light. And what happens to light? Now, some of you have perhaps enough age to know this, or sometimes some people admit, perhaps are too young to be honest, that they can get into pretty heavy trouble, that they don't know what self-discipline means. And I've got to the point where we're talking about the pyramid. Oh, what's that?
Pepper are high puppets. It was great luck 353.
Oh, stop it.
But the bag don't do well enough. School. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do, go, woo, all room.
Sorry, too late.
Okay. I'm talking about building the pyramid and how it has to part, and how Jack Parsons and Brady Mercury had no base. Billy, correct.
Therefore, they had very narrow thing. They wanted to start at the top. You know, you've all heard the Babylon story about Jack Parsons, I'm sure.
Well, I was in the same house
for 2 months where Jack studies stuff. Reads that place horrible.
rats here, especially right up above his roof. I took a complete stranger,
Sort of a bill by visiting the acid that's booked up before and see about that. And we started up the steps.
She said, I can't go on up further. You're sensitive enough to know something was wrong. Still, I used to try and go up there and clear it out with it. Banshee rituals, but I was no match for what Jack had got going around. So, evocation can be extremely dangerous if you cannot control yourself. And Jack could not control herself. Neither could Greg. You make a certain vow in the beginning of an ordeal that you will not be affected by the drugs or drink things like this. Like created as an alcoholic. And he was backed into, and it's no wonder that he went down the way it did. I think he was kept alive
only so long as the new person came along. It could do an excellent job of being the head of the corner.
That's HD. Oh. I haven't seen anyone make the same kind of mistakes. But anyway, it is extremely dangerous to ignore the basic steps of control. And just now I was talking about controlling the body. And if you're a slave to alcohol, cigarettes, or maybe even coffee, careful about that one. Drugs, you have to control. Yes, we don't want slavery among other whites. And what are you a slave to? You are a slave to believing certain things that you read. And, or somebody might tell you something, then you don't think for yourself, you just accept it. That's a slavery type of attitude. And you have to learn to think for yourself. I'll tell you a little story about myself so that you know that I'm quite independent on these score. Grady was the head of the order for a while, you know. I put in patch ball. I
invited him out here and paid for
that. So we got hiding because he wasn't doing things right, and I didn't cool with the alcohol. And nor of the attitudes that came from him. Degree to honor. Psychology, you know that those are.
So we parted, and Grady then did sucky to try and get me to obey him because he was the killer.
And I said, and just rest of the cardio about this all. The rest he'd say, well, you should have respect for him because of his title. And I said, I don't respect anybody who is an alcoholic. I don't care what their title is. Now, I was thinking to myself, and that wasn't popular. And it's never popular sometimes when you think for yourself. And you don't follow the general, what you told. You have to find out for yourself. Of course, if you happen to have dealings with our high muckabucks in the OTO site, you decide for yourself if you can deal with certain persons, you can with others. Well, then you figure out what to do about it. See? And you have to just control yourself in such a way that you can control your own phenomena. You make every bit of phenomena that you suffer. So you part with somebody you love. What did you do? It's not the other person's fault. It might be 50-50, it might be 60-40, but you've got to take the burden on your own shoulders of whatever you did. You have to realize you did this. It's part of your life. You make your phenomena. And no one else does it for you. Of course, you have to go to training when you're a child, and part of that phenomenon is made for yoga, childhood. But then you grow up and you say, well, my parents were right, or my parents were wrong, or I was lucky, or I was unlucky, or whatever it was. And then you make up your mind for yourself about the events you've gone to. But to tell the truth, when you were on the other side and were about to be born, you chose those parents yourself. If you have an advanced soul, you're interested in illumination, chances are very great we chose your own parents. Because why? Because you had to have certain lessons that carry out from life to life to life. And if you don't learn these lessons in this life, you can have them again next life, life. And sometimes, if your blessing is severe enough, you have worse next time. Until a holy guardian angel is dealing with you on that particular matter. So if you go through troubles, it's because it is your particular relationship to the highest in you, or the holy guardian angel, however you want to praise it. And the troubles are for you to solve. They are your lessons. You're here in life as in a school. So that the school gives you certain things you have to learn, and you have to discipline your mind. Well, if you're going to college, of course, you've already learned a lot about disciplining the mental side. But a great many men at the look here, most men don't know anything about discipline in their emotional life. Women know a lot about it. Because there's various levels, you see. On the physical level, for instance, men act in a positive fashion. You see them building seats and rows, carrying them down, and doing all this heavy physical labor. And the next level up is emotional. And the woman can walk into a room and immediately know everything about the apps, intuition. And a man is able to smell that girl I'm going with.
She's got the funniest ideas, but she has picked up something, an emotional like,
the males that she knows. And they are a male. Each that says, I don't understand opposites. But she's put positive on the emotional side. And the male is negative there. So then you take the next step up, which is the mental plane. You can put this all in the tree of black if you like. And the male is positive there and has been for a very long time. We call that mental the sword. And it says in Book of the Law that the woman be girt with the sword before me. So we see in the past and today too, the majority of men are going into mental work. Doctors, lawyers, professors, and so on. And they think this is the end of it. And the woman has been negative on the mental type test, but now she has to learn how to positive. That's our job in dilemma as well. And if men refuse to learn how to understand the emotional plane, and the woman finally catches up with him on the mental plane, who do you think's going to world? All right, now the top plane of all, Christ, is the spiritual plane. A woman is positive there, and the man is negative. And this is why in the past you've seen all of this worship of woman. Just look at the first chapter of the Book of the Law, which sort of capsulates all this. But a woman has a spirituality that he walks, that eats. If she hasn't killed it out, meanwhile, with having to this to the eternal age, to life, and getting pushed out, so if she is really functioning as a woman, she is positive on that plane. And if she is positive, then usually come along and worship. What happens in the Mass? The woman is placed on the altar. She becomes the spokesperson for annuity. She doesn't say not what. Some women don't understand their role in this. It's the highest role of all. And he worships her spirituality. And she should try to represent this if she can, to the male she's touched.
So, having gone up subject on this thing,
we were back. Let's go back down to controlling the physical body. How many in this room take enough exercise? How many in this room take good care? Let's put it the other way. How many in this room have given up junk food? People. Because junk food's not going to do you any good, as you know, to study the subject. Happen to be interest health.
there was just certain things happening in my horoscope, and I studied it for 20, 35 years, something like this.
And if you're going to be a kind of magician you hope to be, you have to have a healthy body. And if you join the College of Thelema, for instance, the Temple of Philo, we begin to give you some instructions on this, and then it's up to you. After that, I had some funny things happen.
I would start talking about health in one of our seminars, and I would
attack some of people's favorite eating habits. And I would get, wouldn't want to listen. And I could get hardly anywhere but stop. So then I decided, well, back off. And I'll just mention that you have to think about health in terms of what you put into your body. Because you can put in things that are make you pretty sick, and all your work stops right now. The body is the temple of the soul. It's necessary to control that body. If it wants cigarettes, and the cigarettes are preventing you from singing or whatever, they have to give up the cigarettes. I had another student, when I was giving his large seminars, she started the smoke cheeks, extremely intelligent person, implying very forward studies. I attacked her all one through about 3-day seminars. As a result, 2 people came up spoke. But she had to do it if she was going to go further, you see, and she had to learn that the body has to be controlled. You have to have self-discipline. If you don't have self-discipline, you must realize that you're going to stop yourself somewhere from the back. All right, now the next thing you need to control is emotional reactions, and this is real tough. Because emotional reactions are all tied in a lot about so on. And in the College of Lima, we try to teach a certain amount of psychology. You go along further in the college, but I like it, and to read these like the psychology books of all kinds. And then if you have real practical emotional problems, then you hopefully can't talk to me about it. And let's see if you would hire an adult. And I might give a few clues. And there are a few successes along this path. It takes worse hard work to control the emotional fight. But let's say that you decided that, and you're young, let's say, and you decided that you're going to be interested in is like achieving the knowledge and conversation of Holy Cargaito, and you have the highest ideals on this score, and a woman comes into your life, and you stop and support her, support children. You work hard, and all your ideals fly out the window because your emotional life has interfered. And of course, there are less extreme cases than that. But that's just a thing that happens. I've seen a lot of young men join the OTO. And they didn't understand about controlling their own emotions. And perhaps they quarreled with somebody in the OTO. And then they gave the whole print up. Just because there was personality differences. Well, I've gone through a lot of personality crises with lots of people. Came out somehow all peace. I tell you, this is no fun, right? Yeah. But you do have to decide that you have one goal in life. That's what you want. You want to achieve the knowledge of conversation. You have one goal. And no other person in the world is going to stop on that. You have to decide that. And you have to control your emotions to suit. Even if you have, let's say, a goal of a finite will, and let's go back to our violinist, and he decides that he loves a certain woman, but that woman says, you can't be a violinist, you have to go and work and do something else, you're not earning enough money. And he wants to be a musician, he has to get the loan up. Because his will should be more to him than any other person in the world. Now this is what the Book of the Law is telling us, actually. Really understand what it is. I really advocate that to memorize all 3 chapters at a time. In fact, in the College of Lima, as a part of the first course work, memorize chapter 1. And then in the second course, we memorize chapter 2. And then we memorize chapter 3. Well, to get the AA, have to memorize the 2 books. 1 chapter books. So memorizing is part of the curriculum, whether it's AA or COT or TOT. And sometimes, if you're in the OTO and you're doing a mass, you have to memorize your card. So, be warned, like to memorize. Now, disciplining the emotional body can be extremely difficult. Did you have to even mind your one goal? Well, the law tells us that will is what? It's not about a whims, wishes, and wants. So how many of your whims, wishes, and wants can bond and if they're interfering with what you really will?
Whether it's the finite will or against that. So it's perhaps a whim to party till late at night, and then the next day you can't function at work. Which happens often, or you can't understand what it was teachers that college cast today, because did the wrong thing last night. So you really have to be dedicated to what you want to do, whether it's the binding will of the mostly, some people begin with the finite will, and then they learn how to make decisions eventually. They want to get where they ought to go. And I don't think I have to say too much about mental discipline, because I believe almost everyone here has been to a college course of some kind, or at least to high school. And so you learned mental discipline in your background. But you can go on, and I really think that you shouldn't stop with college courses. I don't believe anyone in this room has stopped. Go on learning and learning. And you don't stop learning all your life. Pick up the subject matter according to what particular event is, and pick up the right books to help you, so on. So the mental discipline is usually under control. Hopefully. All right, now, I had a question from someone about the difference between AA, the OTO, the tempo coma. And so I think I'm going to just switch to that after telling you how serious this all is. Sorry. All right, now I always say if the OTO is wonderful to start with, because we'll need people with the same ideas. MCD. They have a lot of interaction with other people. And of course, if you decide that your interaction is you working at a certain lodge or camp, place something, you go to another until you find something that you like. And the OTO doesn't object to that, because birds of a feather will flock together. Coe recognized that, build a bud. And the OTO is an outer order. It is political and social. It doesn't ask a lot of work from you unless you want to go on. For how do you go on, more service you must give to other people. You cannot have a soft attitude and decide that you can draw differently to what it have to be certified healthy by other people observing what you do, see, because you only get an invitation at there. Now, of course, the third degree, up to the third degree, is open to everyone, because Telema needs to be spread around the world. And it really would be a panacea for ills the world when decide that we have to leave other people alone. Not only do we have to come to our own ways, but we have to stop interfering with others. And I'll tell you a little story here. Carly heard about Carl Germer.
taking over the OTO had Cully died.
I went up to visit Carl one evening with my son. Then we got to talk something about German history, and since he was a German and knew a lot more than me, he got a little bit angry and gave us a long lecture on the German difficulties ever since Bismarck and so on. Right. So at the end of his lecture, I said, what each country needs to learn to do is to allow the other countries to do their will. And let you stop right there. Carl was overwhelmed. He didn't think the law Salima applied to all kinds of countries. But it has to. If we're going to get rid of wars, we'll have to learn how to work together in peace and allow other countries to have their own raw materials and not go in and grab them. And every country in the world is going to be upset by this new eon. I don't know of a single pocket that's gone untouched by the change from the old eon to the new. Just watch. You think, country's pretty peaceful and so on and so on. And then suddenly there's some kind of revolution in it, or they get attacked by somebody else. So, yeah, that's why we have turmoil. It's because we're changing from one old eon to the new. And people don't want to change their minds. If they have a settled way of thinking, settled way of acting, this is good enough for me, they think. Of course, until the company that they have always hated comes in and shoots them out. And then they have to change. Now, humans won't change until they suffer. And if you have your own suffering individually, there's something that you have to work on and change. And this might be difficult because you're working against your horoscope. But you have to control. You have to know that horoscope, control what happens. If you're going to be a good magician, now of course you call the magician sometimes. Exactly. So the OTO is wonderful for that reason. You really know what political action. You have to know how to interact with other people. You can't just draw yourself up into a cave and be all alone. Achieve your spiritual enlightenment all by yourself. Because why? Because, as Crowley says, a big for your trances have no as assistance to the world back. And the OTO is one way to get assistance if you have achieved certain levels of understanding. But remember always that it is an outside order and it doesn't ask you to do a lot of work. Unless, of course, you want to go into the higher grades. In some cases, people have given a lot of assistance to various lodges or camps and so on. And so then those in the higher grades say, this person's really serving that they will go on serving. So therefore, they get invited to invitational grades. And this, of course, is one reason why we have very few people in it. Because there's not many people that understand this idea of service, human race. And the service is even more severe in the AA. None of these until. You achieve a certain thing. Let's say you achieve the knowledge and conversation of Holy Guardian Angel and the AA. Then you have to help others. And you have to follow directions to come track with the angel. And you have to give up your little self and learn how to be a child by the highest. And of course, they could haven't gotten all this discipline underdone already. That'll go far. Go much further, not as good as like. And let's hope that don't behave in such a way that you belong for several lives. But that you do have to understand have lessons store. And they can be on these various levels of speed bump. And that control the little self so that the angel can work with you. The holy guardian angel will not defile a body. Poorly care. And if you had no self-discipline, that was good. Well, that's junking right from the OTLAA. All right, when I first started this, I was 30 years of probationer EAA. Because Jane Wolf visit a direct and second Cody. He Jane Wolf, and I was Jane Wolf's stick, so it was direct fun, see? Okay, nothing would have happened except that I did some work. And halfway through, I achieved the knowledge and how much session the boy guided each or is skimmage. That right. And Carl Vermer said that I had achieved a certain rate, by the 6 AA, but I haven't done some of that beginning work, but that Chloe set up way. So I had a chance then to go back and to do the work that I did this in order to help others work. And the person who helped me beside that I'd done it was Jim Esch. And he has now got as far as I have. And that's why he's written this list of the magic system of the AH. And he's done excellent work on that. The work at Techniper nails it. So, let's say that I was given a person who would help me achieve another step. Going from the Friday the 6th back. So, yeah. Jim came along from Rabia. Was he witness that had done so? And I was the witness, of course, that he had caused certain things. So in the AA, in this branch of the AA, a person does the assigned work colleagues giver out, and we issue the paper when the work is done sufficiently well, and what Crowley expect. In other words, follow everywhere possible the instructions that Crowley gave. Now, other people have achieved the scientific illumination, and they can want to call it that, and other methods, but it's that's okay. But all
You could be a Hindu or a Buddhist or something like this and achieve the same thing.
But it wouldn't be, you couldn't call yourself our batch BAA unless you had the papers in your hand that proved that we had tested you and that you were and actually cast to the grave because you did the work. Okay, now a person might go into the AA thinking, oh my, how wonderful, it's very glamorous. So I'm a member of the AA, and everybody take notice, please. Let's do that, please. And immediately Eagle steps in, and you take a step up the tree of life. You're acquainted with the tree, and you get to another grade. You think, hey, get to another grade, and he holds bigger and bigger all the way. Noah escapes the ego power. Noah. Until, like Crowley, you are able to cross the abyss of everything is dignity. You give up and then that is only momentary. You lost the ego for a short amount of time. Then you come back and you have to function again on this world. And so then we see the ego still working below the abyss. It is not about, but say, about the spirit trying. It doesn't bond. And of course, there's a lot of funny things happening. Hey, people say, well, I don't know about good mind or something like this. I'll do all this work by myself. And then they say, well, I've done such and such and such and such, so I must be a certain grade.
But maybe they are. Often they are.
It's just that the ego says, oh my, how brave I am, I've done such and such. And maybe they missed stuff.
Maybe they had missed a great deal of the self-analysis via psychology.
In fact, Bugardi used to say, don't take up occult studies until you have been
to that analysis. Well, that's wonderful, and that's
probably going to work fine for a lot of people. I never could afford it myself, so I had to handle vice versa.
Yeah, that's how come. I was glad I could do it.
But not everyone can, because, you have habits or things that that escape your notice.
And it might be very deleterious to your
work. Carl Germer said that I probably had to cheat what I had because I had
pure aspiration. I had one goal. That was to know the Holy Guard. And I had to do a lot of other things too. I had to raise a family, had to go to college. I was an art teacher for 20 years in Tabata, things like that, on the outer world. But the angel helps me all along late. And I discovered early on that I would sign the person up for the AA and that they disappear.
After living 4 or 5 experiences like this, I decided these people don't have a background.
How can they do what Cody asked them to do in the AA? They don't know what they're doing. They're absolutely ignorant. They were even ignorant of some of the basic things of Philema. And so then I decided, okay, I've been a beginner for sport. There. I will work with people who want to begin. And so I formed the College of Philema. And since I've been to a college course myself, all the way I got an MA, I decided it would be the fashion in such a way that it could be someday an accredited college. Well, now Jen has incorporated this according to the laws of Kapoi that were incorporated in college. And he does a lot of teaching down there. And I'm beginning to retire a little bit, so except I will work who really wants and help. And I'm serious. And if you join the College of Philema and want a one-to-one help, I'm usually available for a clinic, unless you choose a time when somebody else is there. So anyway, I started the College of Philema thinking, all right, these people need basic knowledge about themselves. Who are you? Do you really know? And, so one of the things we do is we have them write and all the way out the sea and explain how come they came to what dreams of visions they had, which were send them this way, or what phenomenon, which of course they had to manufacture themselves and they don't realize it. They did. And so that then they said, oh, well, maybe this is who I have, or at least to get a glimmer of who they are. And so then we have more college things like being at certain bolts and main reports and answering exams and learning the Bala. And then I have each person work on their own casco. And that's a dilly. And they usually work on it last. I have had students turn in pages, 100 pages or more, on their horoscope. Now, since astrology is new to everybody, I have rarely met a person who knows anything about astrology.
Well, begin college day. I just say, well, okay, so
now we have talked that you're about us, that you have a certain planet square another planet, and you have a certain planet in a certain house, and what's it doing to your life? So
I say, go to the books and find out, just by the parabon, because there's plenty of research on this. And then you don't have to write the whole paragraph because some of these paragraphs in the books can't attack everything that you are. They can have book can only give you the aspect between two planets. It can't get was 4 planets are working together. Okay, do that.
So you just simply analyze first. That's the first step anyway. And someday we hope you can synthesize it and put it all together.
You realize this is what you are for this life. Certain things are good for you, and certain things have to be controlled, and certain that's will make closer to your true will. I had that Lamiste who had the most difficult horoscope I've ever seen. But I thought intuition there was a great deal spiritual potential in this person. So I advocated that she study art because art was the Venus in her horoscope was the best situated. And that's what she's doing. And that's her line, this line expression. Now sometimes a horoscope is extremely difficult. Crowley's horoscope is a very difficult one too. And of course he made lots of enemies. Delivered. He was one of the most difficult persons to mow at the ricket I've ever heard of. So that at the end of his life, there were only 2 people who had stuck with him for years, and that's Jane Wolfe, Carl Gunn. Made troubles. But
the Crowley took this terribly difficult horoscope, and he of course had karma
pushing in from beyond because he did in this kind of work bearing no lies.
And your horoscope may give you some good indications for this type of thing, for that spiritual indication.
But also karma comes into it. You have to figure that
you've been interested in this past. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, you choosing your background on their parents. And they gave you certain lessons which you needed. I mean, they were tough detection till you're over 30 before you get over some of these dents and stuff. In other words, you have to stop being a teenager and blaming your parents for everything.
What difficult happens is your own phenomenon.
And your parents taught you something that were very useful. Some things you didn't like, but it was your choice to go through this. So that when you find your own nature. All right, let's get back to the College of Film. I think I covered it, didn't I? Well, all right. I started the college, and Jim Eshelman came on.
About 3rd time I picked him up, committed.
Was at the from San Francisco Renash on a tour of work. It was cheaper to play at night, you see. Well, okay, so we sat on the patio top. It's a great deal like Bangaret. And it was told to me that Gianna was my successor. And he has come very fast to all his work. And he's been very rigid. So in due time, he decided that he wanted to start Temple of Philemon because college he named it that ritual. He's a ritualist and I'm very good. We see we each have our strengths and our weaknesses. So he began with the Temple of Philemon. I read every single thing that he read. He wrote everything. Every time something new came to him, I read that. And sometimes in the work he was doing, I'd say, well, listen, go into the can something funny with law or the holy books and so on. He'd go back and reread on it. And he based it, you see, on a solar work done in Golden Dawn. And, well, it has a structure somewhat similar to the golden dot, but it has become very bleak. Rather than holding on sorry stuff, it is now meant to be village. And the structure was a force of spine because even Crowley used it for some of his rituals. And of course, that is Crowley's back. And of course, one thing, if you're interested in these studies, it's quite very helpful to work through some of the Golden Dawn reading, or perhaps go through some of their work, so on. Especially some of the natural work like Kabbalah, so on. So Jeb took all those things that I missed them for first course one of College Bleelam, and he constructed his Temple of Clay. Now, about half the Temple of Fleet people now are at large or priests that they don't have a chance to go through the rituals every week. I mean, twice a month. But they do have to go down to Southern California for initiations, next step to take. And they do have to pass exams, so on. And all the College of Men, of course, one material has been added to the first 4 steps in that template. MG was added a lot more, but it's good that sure. And it helps you to understand this awkward world of ours, that you're in. And helps you to live with it. Because you get a lot out and background now that College of Slim likes to work with each person on the level ultra, finding out who you are. Jen has put that in too. Sometimes the problems come up, but temper full not can team up Kriya. Either just to help people work through it. Not everybody sticks, of course, because there's always personality difficulties. I don't care what kind of we get into, you're going to have personality. And of course, if you were a good astrologer, you knew the horoscope with everyone in the room and say, oh, well. But there's one thing I'd like to say, and very serious to say it, don't let any other person stop from doing these studies. I don't care he don't like summer. And I've gone through quite a lot of stuff. Personality difficult. I was always domain them both in the first Propper's house and all. And I learned to weather and decide what time was, but then I want. And it was good learning for me. So don't give up the OTL because you don't like a certain lodge. Don't give up the College of Lima because you can't stand the people in it. And so what? This is your decision while with the work. And if another person does you off, you aren't fit to this work. That's all there is to it. She starts fit for she quit. And no blame. The Tao Te King says, love that. You have to decide. This is hard work, Alex. That side it's quite big deal. And if you really want to concentrate. And you have to decide it in spite of the fact that you have a job or you're going to college and you're doing all kinds of other things. So, how many people get up a half an hour early in order to meditate? Already you're learning something about something. But this is what you're going to have to do if you're going to really succeed in these studies. You can't just say, well, this is fun. I'll play around with it a bit and then decide you can't work at it.
and go off and evoke some kind of entity from another plane and get to trouble. And then wiped out for this life, or the next life, or travel only goes up. So, all right, you have to do something yoga. Exercise. And you have to take care of your body. If you take care of your emotional life, you take care of your mind. Which, of course, most of you do, that's a trouble. Too intellectual. Already got there. Get. I've covered some of that now. Okay, now do you have a good question to ask? Say you did.
Very much.
Well, we were talking about death. Yes. Yes, see, I'm looking forward to death, and people say, well, no, Phyllis, you can't die. Say, yes, I can't. Even? You can die, just don't do it then. Well, I'm 77, and I'm proud of being old. 99 is... Oh. Now, if I lose my mind, or if I can't work in the garden any longer, it would be better. Book of the law says that we shall know about. And I did find out. In other words, I can remember my last step. Well, a certain event came along, and I remembered several lives in the past. And then eventually, I experienced what my last death was like. Now, of course, you have to pay attention to your dreams. You have to pay attention to your visions. And in that time when you are sort of in between sleep and waking, you'll just... Strange things. You must listen to the unconscious if you possibly can. And some of these messages come from past lives. You are what you are because you've done it life after life after life. You've done several things. And so each star is different. And you have to know your own star nature, of course, eventually. Well, I had this experience that I remember. Die in the last life. I don't know who I was, don't know what my name was, but I was an artist. And I can remember seeing the reactors
of garret which I was living, and the bed in which I was lying was not clean. Nobody was taking care. I'd been there, suffering for a long time. And there wasn't anybody around. And the suffering was so great, so horrible. That's why I left my body, and I was asked to leave my body. Angel came. And I met my body. And I experienced the bloody years or stuff. And nothing so test. No, various persons have experienced this sort of spiritual illumination and have tried to write poetry about it. Certainly, Crowley was one of the greatest that writes new things about it. And these hobos, sick vibes. But you can't put it into words. It's worth working for. It's worth all the trouble you might go through trying to split yourself. It's worth all the trouble and control. All the phenomena that you brought upon yourselves from what you wanted or don't want it. You have to learn not control. It's worth all that. It's a embodiment of all that you are to the best that you can be. And once you know that, well, you get the guidance all the rest of your life. So we're pa. And have a pure aspiration. This is all we should. Forget about these little entities on the other planet. Just give you trouble. You don't need to have a spirit come and lay nigh.
You have to be self-sufficient.
Okay, now, I think I still have some time, so I want to before we read the second chapter in the book.
And my thought has stopped. It's the but
I've been in the OTO now, see, about 55 years, I think it is. I joined a year before Rick did.
So I've been in it longer than anyone alive. Why this? Why my holy guardian angel spared me until now?
You're here. Yeah, we're here clocking this hole, and you have a lot more.
Yes. Now, for this afternoon, I wanted to start the talk off with
Something about love, because we say love us till all them in the will. And
yeah, there are nuances in this sentence which sometimes you don't catch on to.
and in our modern day and age, where we have things hitting us all the time about sex, 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 sex. And I want to point out to you that love does not always include sex. For instance, you might love your job. You might love your children. You might love your friends. You might love your parents. You might love something you're doing. You might love the earth. You might love the work you do, or the work you might love somebody's paintings or whatever. Can't have sex and all that, but it's still love. So therefore, we have to get rid of the idea that love always includes sex. It doesn't. And when Nui says always unto me, she means that you should be living a life full of love. And often I can say, if you're working at something you don't love what you're doing, you're in the wrong area. You change until you find something that you love to do. Now, persons team up with each other because they fall in love. And sometimes it's not a very pure love, sometimes it's just sex. And of course, that is not likely to happen to last very long. But then sometimes some type of love comes to persons who team up with each other. And maybe we don't stay with the same partner forever. Sometimes people do, sometimes they don't. And in our modern day and age, they often change partners quite rapidly. I'm one of them. And all of this is training. I can tell you from experience that love fully guardian angel is greater than anything you will know on this earth. But you fall in love because you have an idea in your head of the perfection of your holy guardian angel. Now, make other filters you very easily. Men usually fall in love with somebody who represents their anima, if you're into Jungian psychology. And the anima represents the ideal they have for one. And the women will fall in love with the knight in shining armor called the animus. And these are intermediate steps to knowing the love of the holy guardian angel. It's not the full story, see. But you do this because you have to learn what love is like. You could not stand the love of the angel if you had not experienced love. It would simply burn you up, blow you away. And so every time you love, it's sacred. It is, you are in one step or another. You are perhaps at the stage where you love the perfection of your own higher self. Or perhaps the angel has made itself known in such a way. But usually the anima or the animus is the intermediate step.
So you lose a partner.
and you go into some kind of a tailspin. But that's not the end of anything. Would you love again? And maybe the next love is a little bit more refined because you learn something. Hopefully you learn something. Some people repeat the same kinds of partnering over and over again because they haven't learned some kinds of lessons. So if you can discover that you're repeating the same, idea. You always, let's say, you always marry an alcoholic, or you always marry a woman who takes advantage of you, or whatever it is, or somebody who bosses you around. There's a lesson you have to learn because you've repeated the same pattern over again. And we should learn it so that you can go on to the next step. Now, when people are partnered, living the law of Philemon, do what thou wilt, becomes extremely difficult. Because when you fall in love, you are projecting your own perfections, what your idea of perfection is, on the other person. And that person is not what you think they are. You have not learned to leave them to be themselves. You think that they should be so perfect because it's your perfection. And sooner or later you discover, they're doing things I wouldn't do, and you get into quarrel. You have to learn in very close quarters to let the other person go their way. And this is difficult because we project all the time and every day. And you're all projecting right now, and I'm sorry, I'm the target for some of you. If I knew I obviously know I'm a target, I'll do something to make you stop it, for hell, hopefully. Your own perfection, you should worship your own star nature. That's what you worship, not anybody else. And sometimes people get into the awkward field because they think, well, Crowley was great, So we stand at the stage door and yay, yay, yay for the latest pop star. Oh, wonderful. The other thing says, nothing you reach so far yet. Becoming a sheep. That's not exactly bulimic thinking. So Crowley might write something, let's say, I won't attack the holy books because you can't attack those. But anyway, he might write something in something else that is the man Crowley. And so you have to say, well, that's the man Crowley, and it's called think about that. You don't accept everything. And that means you have to be informed. And I can tell you, I went through a period of time when I simply got angry at the way Crowley wrote about women. And I thought, there's got to be something better than this. And I wouldn't read him for 5 years. You'd have to back off, So I read other authors, especially women authors. And for instance, these books here, I wanted to bring those up and I digress again. But this Barbara Brennan book, Like Emerging, well, I read it through, and she says the same things that you could say, well, that's what Nuit says. And she sees auras clear into this, see what people do to each other with their auras, one. And she sees auras with all 7 layers. And that corresponds to the 7 steps you can find on the Tree of Life. Look at just the spheres. And it's worth picking this up because of the fact that she is a Thelemite, but she's never written Book of the Law. And as you read it, you say, oh, okay, so I know what that is. When the Book of the Law. Here you are as a star nature, for instance. We're all stars together. Only when you're in a human body, you have a certain difficulty with your character because you have to work with astrology or Vornwitz and background and the karma and whatnot. you lose sight of what the star nature is. You'll have to begin to tear away all of these veils that you're carrying around with you. And the thicker the veil, the worse you are.
In fact, it is possible to
push away the holy guardian angel from your life. And all you have to do is look at people who are habitual criminals. So what happens to such a star? They don't quit it. They don't listen to the lessons coming from their higher self. Eventually they can
disintegrate, just like stars do in the sky. Blow up,
But if you're a Thelemite, what you want to do is make your own star nature bigger and bigger and bigger because of your experience.
And love is part of that experience. So, every time you love, you are learning how to relate to the vocal angel. Relate. Self relax like that would.
They would go down some corridor or dark area, and at the end of it, it a view of light. The holy guardian angel was there to instruct them. And since they were going to come back because of modern medicine, that changed their whole life. They came back with an idea of the kind of work they should do, and they stopped fussing about what was happening to them previously, and settled down to do their real, honest-to-God work. I don't advise you to go out and get to automobile accident so you could experience this. You might not come back. But this is a discovery of modernness. And that's why Moody titled his book that life does exist after life. And of course, if you have memories of past incarnations, you know it. You know you will be here more than once. And each time you have something to learn. And the lessons get more and more refined until you are ready for a great experiences. Yes, you meet the being of light, and which we call Boygadminito right at the end. And as I explained to you about my previous death, my last death, that's exactly what happened. And there's no pain on the other side, no work, just pure love. Some people have to sleep for a while because this life is around. And then, according to some psychic investigations, there is regular lesson types of things on the other side, like astral hospitals and whatnot, to take care of people who are going the wrong way. Another book that you can stomach, very, very big, is called Owaspy. And that was written with automatic writing. A certain dentist in the late 1800s was told to give away his dental services for about 10 years to refine himself, and then he would be helped to write a book. And he knew nothing about typing. Typewriters were newer at that time. However, he'd get up at 5 in the morning, according to instructions, and sit down and write these messages coming with angelic beings on the other side. Well, you know these exist now because you've read Crowley's account in his Vision and the Voice. So it's obvious that this is the case. Well, anyway, this is great thick book which explains the history of mankind and through the various cycles, as they came to thousands and thousands of years to inhabit this earth. And, of course, the Hindus have said for a very long time that we're at the bottom of the cycles. We're in the Kali Yuga. And we have become far too commercial and too wrapped up in the body, things like this. And you just watch TV, that makes you sick to the stomach. And sex and violence. And therefore, we now have to work our way out of this. And this is how come Roger Fleet says, I'm the god of war and of vengeance. Because if you become so materialistic as all that, you have no more spiritual light. That if the
Gods are trying to worry about you, or your holy God, you mean just kind of worried about you. He's going to be hit
until you get out of it. And all you have to do is look around the world and you see this thing working. And that's, he is a god of war and vengeance. And it talks about torture and things like this, but that doesn't mean we do it. It's been done. Stalin, Hitler, South America. It's Near East. Been done all over the world. Until people have suffered enough that they will accept that they should have a spiritual life. And they won't accept this if they're too set in their ways. They have to be shaken up. Mankind is so situated they won't learn unless they have sorrows and troubles. Have you ever known a really settled, rich person that didn't have to worry about a thing, that had anything in their heads at all? If we don't make a struggle, if we don't have to struggle for something, why then we don't what? So, now then, was there another question? So I can get off the subject a lot more. I'm going to run out of steam if you don't ask me questions.
Yeah, so good question for you. It's kind of like there's there's a lot to it. Let me just get it out and get a general idea of what I want to ask. And basically, let me start with, you went back to the idea, going back to something you were saying earlier about Grady and his drinking, and being in control of the body, and purifying the body, if you want to put it that way, making sure you eat healthy foods and building up the body. Now both Grady, with his alcohol, and then Crowley with his heroin addiction. What is your opinion of other AA branches that may not emphasize that so much, or as evidenced by Grady and Crowley?
Don't ask me an opinion about any other AA branches. They're not my business.
Okay.
However, I will give you an opinion about Crowley. He did not become an addict when he started. He strengthened his body to begin with. He was he had weaknesses as a child. And he deliberately took up rock climbing and mountain climbing in order to strengthen himself. And he deliberately took up asana and pranayama. Now, he ended up with a difficulty with his lungs later. I often think to myself, well, he was doing pranayama in polluted air in London and taking in too much of that pollution. And did that cause the asthma? Or was he allergic to something, born allergic to something other than that could have caused the asthma? And see, in those days, they wouldn't know. So when he went to North Africa, after Cheflo, the doctor, he had terrible asthmatic attacks all his life. And the doctor in North Africa put him on heroin to relieve it. And then he tried to get himself off of it. One horrible scuffle and thought he had won the battle. But the asthma came back, and they didn't have good asthma medicine in those days. All they could think of was something that was like heroin. In other words, medicine wasn't too well developed, and they didn't know much about allergies. So he became addicted to the heroin, and it was a medical problem. but he had already accomplished the most. By 1910, 1912, he had written the holy books, and he received book the law, and he was in healthy condition when that happened. Now, yes, he did experiment with drugs, and it says in the book of the law, drink wine and take wine and strange drugs, and they shall not harm you. Well, it also says to worship me. So people go and say, well, okay, so Coley was a heroin addict, so I guess it's all right, I'll take heroin, and they get full. And they can't do anything further with their spiritual development this life, because they can't control it. And they forget to worship me. What is an act of worship? Now, this may be different for every person. Huxley wrote a book called The Island. And that it's just a novel, but it tells you how these young people on this island take a certain drink, a soma, or whatever you want to call it, in a group, and then they have a group leader who talks to them about high spirituality of experience. And nobody becomes addicted because they only do this maybe once a year. So you have to do this under will. If you do take something, you have to be extremely careful that it doesn't take you. Do you become a slave to it, or are you going to control it? You have to control it yourself. Now, okay, now does that settle that question, or do you have something further to go on with?
No, I got answers it quite adequate, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Phyllis, what's the nature of the HGA? And what kind of being is it?
A being of light.
There we go. Is it external to yourself? Is it part of yourself? Is it subject?
Well, you know, Carl Gerber and Crowley spoken with that question for years and years. And pendants in the, I see some of Carl's opinions about it. And Crowley says that I also dictated the book of law. He finally discovered that perhaps this was his own fully guardian angel. Only they each came up with the opinion that the holy guardian angel was separate. Now, you do have a higher self. You have a part of you that is wants to attain to the highest, and so that you can be the best that's possible for you. And you get this guidance from the other side as long as you don't turn it away. Okay, so how do you begin to listen to the guidance from the other side? Intuition. That's the first step. Intuition. And as for instance, if you're driving along the freeway, your intuition will say that guy was going to move into your lane. You know, that's why I prefer to drive, because if I'm in an airplane, my intuition is wiped out. Somebody else is doing all the driving. But you begin to listen to your intuition in the most simple ways, and you let it grow. And be careful that the ego doesn't tell you instead of doing intuition. Okay. Now then, once the intuition gets started, and you have high aspirations, then you take your path of the way you think it's best for you. And if it isn't the best, then you change until you find what fits. We were talking about various OTO things and various things that I'm unveiled about in this area and down in Los Angeles, for instance. You might discover that you like the work of the College of Philema, okay, and maybe you'd rather do just OTO work. That's fine too, and maybe TOT, College of Philema, AA and OTO is fine to some people, all four, and that's a big load. Yeah. So you just simply decide, and as you discover that you can't work with a certain group, well then move away. You've got lots of choices around here, until you find something that will really help you. Now, of course, sometimes it's a help if you're fighting with somebody, because then you have to come up against some part of your nature that wants to do this type of fight.
And of course, the best thing to do is begin to study yourself. Know yourself. That's what we emphasize in the College of Palimaka Temple. Know yourself. And we try to help you to get there, into where that's all about.
Okay, now, yes.
How do you tell the difference? Oh, what's a good way to make sure that you're listening to your intuition and not to your ego?
If it's just ego, life will come along and give you a big wall. Because the ego, always, you have to face it all the way up, all the tree of life. And it's always there. It's just like we're always thinking the other person should act like we do. We're always projecting. Always. And you have to learn to accept other people for who they are. And give tolerance. Because, well, that person can't help it. They've got that kind of a horoscope, or they're like that. And they don't have to behave like me. And that's very difficult work if you're in the same house with another person. Sure, yeah. Right. If you're naturally a leader, like most air signs are, Aries and Leo and Sagittarius. Not air sign, I have fire signs. Oh, sorry. So you see, I'm running out of steam. Ask me another question. I have questions. Yes.
How did you work with your own autobiography, or do you ever recommend it?
George, you were saying at one point starting writing your own autobiography to hit, see your new canons in light.
Yes.
What did you do? How did you do?
Well, you see, I took an English class in college, and I always got A. And she had us write certain types of things, journals and what.
I didn't write to sit down and write a formal autobiography like I asked you to do in the college way, but my teaching minor was English. So if I get work in that's misspelled, you get it back spelled correctly.
So,
Now you have tutors to help you with this. Well, yes.
you know that comment that Crowley puts on the Book of the Law, this
book is for building, etc. Right. Well, why is it that we spend so much time studying it? I mean,
This is all right. I'll tell you how that happened. You heard about Norman Mudd. OPD was his the initial. In 1925, Crowley, Norman Mudd, and Leah Kersig, by that time Norman and Leah, lovers.
In fact, Leah was pregnant, but don't let's speak. They all went to Germany to meet with the German adepts. And some of those people they met with Karl Germer and a few others, Tranker, and so you heard their names as one. And Norman Mudd was so inspired by this meeting that after Crowley and Leah and Leo stayed with Martha Kunzel, told Bailey's or and Crowley left and went back, I guess, North Africa or something. Norman Mudd sat down and wrote what his interpretation of book law. And it was pages. He sent it to Crowley, and Crowley said, "This is pure trash." So then Norman's ego was so hurt by such treatment that he called out all study of the occult. And then on, he wasn't have anything to do with Crowley. And he wasn't the only one that wouldn't have anything to do with Crowley after a little bit. So he wrote a letter to Jane Wolfe, I think I printed that he wasn't doing anything any further. So eventually he took a well in a certain Irish town, and he
loaded his pockets with stones or whatever was heavy, and walked out to the water and drowned himself. And when Crowley heard that, he was horribly hurt, so terribly hurt. He sat down and wrote that Comet Bragape. Study this book is forbidden. Okay, so supper's forbidden. You're going to study it, aren't you? And so we're not supposed to talk about it to allow it, and we're supposed to each make our own interpretation. And yet Crowley made some interpretations for us. And meanwhile, he didn't tackle everything that was in that book of the law. So once in a while, a person gets an idea. I don't mind writing about what I've discovered. For instance, let her work the work of wickedness. W. What's W in 6? 6. What does 666 refer to? Yes, to Terra Sun. So that means that the women, too, are to attain to Terra. And, of course, I had to dig that out after years and years of... And it's that she isn't only going to be girt with a sword, but she's going to have the same amount of illumination as any man can have. And the terminal age is over, kids. All right, now any more questions? Yes.
Was there a will instinct?
Yes, so you're like it's evil. Yeah, there is good diligence. The will of the animal in you to eat, to live, for instance, and to reproduce your species and whatnot, is a lower form of, and we call it instinct because it belongs to the sphere of Vesod, which has the autonomic functioning of all that humankind has built up ever since we evolved lower forms of life. So that instinct drives us. And we behave like an ape every once in a while. We haven't lost it, really. But you have to transcend the ape in you. And some instincts might lead you the wrong way. You have to discover what they happen to be. Whether they're useful to you or not, yes, it's useful to eat. But eat what? It's not just a matter of filling the stomach any longer. It's something that's going to help you with your true will. You have to decide that for yourself. So you see, the instinct said, yes, we have to eat. But another section of you says, well, I'm going to eat Kinikiak breeze. And that may be blocking what you want to do with your life. Now then, will then takes over, you see, as soon as the person gets beyond Yesod and begins to function in the spheres of Hod and Netzach. And I hope I'm not over anybody's head by talking about the tree of life. Hod, of course, is the intellect, and Netzach is love, the sphere of Venus. And so sometimes people can operate both of those, and sometimes with only one, we have to balance them. Don't see. So you have to learn how to love, and you have to learn how to use your head. That's what those two spheres mean. And see, the will has to rule these days. Okay, get this one question, Spar.
Question for you regarding, working with entities on the other side. Now, I understand the idea of building a broad base, yoga pyramid, instead of like building a tower that's going to not get knocked over with the first psychic wind, as you put it. What then would be purpose of working with any entity from the other side, even after you have built up your tower or your pyramid?
It's only one entity you want to work with, and that's Holy Guardian Angel. As I pointed out earlier, Crowley himself says in Magic and Theory and Practice that any work that you're doing that is magical work, that is not oriented towards achieving the knowledge and conversation is black magic. You don't want to. You leave those entities alone. You're a Thelomite. You wouldn't interfere with your fellow Thelomite, so why would you interfere with other entities on the other side? I don't know if you were here when I gave you that horror story about somebody who did.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if, even after you had reached that point at the gaining the knowledge of conversation, if there was any purpose in...
Well, it might depend. You follow the directions of the angel.
And that's it took the angel.
Yes,
And that,
but the angel ended to make things turn out correctly. And of course, Crowley writes right out that it's up to us to contact entities on the other side, behind God. You take that literally. Cage. Yes. And I don't think he realized how dangerous it was. It wasn't dangerous for him because he had knowledge and conversation early on. Yes.
Wasn't the tradition now and now? This operation is supposed to be off contacting those entities after. Yeah, it's like almost that kind of quiet.
Yes, I'll tell you what that really means. You get the first contact with the angel, and the ego is still extremely strong. It's only the parrot, and the ego goes on being strong, clear through until you cross to the next thing. And look, how farther you go, the more strong the ego is. So big a problem. Demons are the demons inside you. You have to face them one by one and conquer them. And that happens after the first experience. That's what that really means. And of course, you've read Crowley's account. Well, he was in Boleskine and he called up all these entities and they did strange things to people and made the dogs howl and the gardener go mad and doors open and close. Try it. He could do that because he was already, many lives, in the past, he had worked with these things. But I wouldn't recommend it for anybody else. We're not as strong as he is, so we don't have the same kind. We were not Alpha Slaby in our fast lives.
My experience with most people who play with entities is such that they are really falling into ego 100%. And so, if you want to make an entity your slave, that it has power over you. That's forever. It's like, perhaps so correct. You might learn something, but if you don't.
Yeah. Well, you could wreck a few lives. Besides not only other people's lives, but your signature lives. Have to make up for every mistake you make. Have to learn from it and correct it if it's too bad a mistake, one time or another. Life is extremely well balanced. The Book of the Law is A-L, Aleph Lamed. So Aleph is the beginning, if you know your tarot, of the school that comes in and goes to all of these experiences. And it is also the card which represents the highest illumination a person can achieve and still have a mind. Still be on earth. And we all carry this beginning of the Fool within us. And then we have Lamed, and everything has to be balanced. And that's karma. And if you do something bad to somebody else, you could expect repercussions on you. Now, any more questions?
I have both. Yeah, a lot of people, especially the owls or anything else, actually anybody could get at the store wall. It's a religion, and they call it, the aim of virtue of the science. Yeah, would you elaborate and people would say it's your religion, how?
I would say, if I was Dr. Cushion, I'd say yes. What? Yes.
I can't go.
Oh, you couldn't hear the question?
What should you say if somebody says, is Stelema a religion?
And she always replies, the method of science, the aim of religion, which is true. We are interested in religious life and illumination. And a lot of people in this century are interested. And Blavatsky actually said 100 years ago, she said in the late 1800s,
that would take 100 years, and there would be a great explosion of interest in occult subject matter.
People would turn around from materialism into something better.
And that's happened all over the world. Okay, some more questions. Yes.
What do you think of the quality of a lot of the occult material that's coming out these days, though? I mean, there's...
Oh, well, I think quality depends on the eye of the observer. For instance, some people like pornography. I don't think much about the eye of the observer in that case, because it's the lowest form of sex you can imagine, and it takes advantage of other people, innocent people, like, for instance, children or women or something. So it's really dirty, though. And actually, the sex instinct, it should be transformed into a higher form, and that's why Nuit is always talking about love. It's not just sex. It has to be sex with love, and if it isn't sex with love, you get the direful judgments of Ra Kuit. Well, who is Ra Kuit? A representative of your own holy guardian angel. So if you are not using this basic instinct for the highest purposes, the holy guardian angel will come along and swat you and tell you not. And you go from woman to wonder why in the world women don't love you. Well, you've gone too low. And I have no use for any man who will hit along, really. No, just stuck searching out and taking advantage of little children. Well, those people really think, no, treasure was push. No, they get themselves that. You don't know where meetings. I'll make some.
People who children are obsessing on what you think to extent that could be a result of the repression of their free and to take.
They're nothing that got psychological. The person who abuses is often abused in his own childhood. And usually, the majority of people who abuse their men. And grins get full, and then much easier than it gets with women. Women are supposed to take care of other person.
Do dirt and that spills into punish because it's bring children the world will
And provide everything when they think of it. Aggressive perceptions and put only in favor of because those to do. Then the man's work actively to nurture. He has to learn how to do something. And you find that there's samples of the man who will take care of it from works. Okay, he was
fine. And it's a good for him. See, because I mean, fine. I was ill. That doesn't mean that, yep, I was male bear. Part of piece of behavior.
But I think that all of that, you see, is all TV outfit. If you TV, what's in nature, you're going to learn about how it's house. Just do one thing. America's point of view. B.
And Jerry, you can get children that point possess fake spell, but it's never out with it. Yeah.
And you and perhaps they were then you don't. Because to okay, so then what violence drop sex. Learn from it all. Pick up the newspapers and book a news.
It will fit. It's it. Put it there.
Violet. So, we're gearing up to explore. Because we have to the north.
What?
Nó cấp mà ai balance is a bit way. Okay, now had to go in and help win the cup.
Boss.
In the north play. Does those wouldn't slip right as far as they
Good, but it America had been nobody street.
Enough baby.
well part of about people in the isn't it?
Sometimes I also confusion among the university with GL. Where like it must have a focus because the ace is available and not with me. So what about let's do for the reading too?
It's man is easy without system and sus if the church sacred needed word of the weight. Given the speech wrap it up of the first attack and